The first one is a dream. And when you say a dream, there's certain principles of a dream. How do you create a dream? Well, first you got to see it with the mind's eye. Every person in this room has dreams. When little people are young, when people have children, what do they tell them when they're young? Honey, when you grow up, you can do what? Finish the sentence for me. You can be whatever you want to be, right? What happens to that? They get about 18 years old and you look at them and you go, honey, I don't know how to tell you this. I don't know if you can be whatever you want to be. We actually demotivate people to dream. When I first started writing books, all my friends made fun of me. And you can imagine what other high school coaches did to me, right? Oh, here comes Mr. Motivational Speaker, Mr. Book Writer, Mr. Author. And my point is, when you start to grow, some people will make fun of you. They'll laugh at you. Even some people in your own family, because they can't see what you see. I still remember sitting in Coach Insel's office one day, and he had a sign behind his desk that was actually sitting down. And it said, the ability to chase a dream that nobody can see but you. I said, Coach, you need to put that sign up behind your desk. And he did. He put it up right behind his desk. The ability to chase a dream that nobody can see but you. So this is what the tree of manifestation looks like. Number one, you see it. You believe it's possible. You begin to break with old ways of thinking, because every significant breakthrough we've ever had in this world was first to break with an old way of doing business into a new way of doing business. We have to actually let go of some of the old to create some of the new. And then you need to define that dream, and then you need to begin to sell that dream to as many people as you can. If there's one common leadership fault that I see leaders make across this country, is they don't talk about vision enough. And there's different roles of leadership, see, and we'll go into this, but there's really 4 roles of leadership. Leading by example is what most people tell me they do. So I lead by example. That's the way I lead. Well, if leading by example, let's say you come in and work 14, 16 hours a day. Do you think you working 14, 16 hours a day inspires someone else to work 14, 16 hours a day? You know what inspires them to say? Man, they worked their butt off. Now I want you to think about it, because the only role of leadership is not leading by example. There's 4 roles of leadership. The first one is to model the behavior you want from other people. That's leading by example. But the second role is to define where we're going to go and how we're going to get there. See? And to talk about that, it taps into the Spirit's need to be part of something bigger than self. The third role of leadership is aligning and creating systems and feedback mechanisms. I mean, does just owning a gym membership make you in shape? But sometimes that's what we think people do, right? That's kind of how we do leadership, is that we just talk about it every now and then, and we believe that it will actually create leaders. If you really want to lead, you got to train them. You got to teach them. You got to trust them. Kind of reminds me of a friend that had a dog, and he never owned a dog in his life. And he said, you're never going to believe what this stupid little dog does. And I said, well, what does he do? He said, well, he poops in the living room floor all the time. And I said, well, tell me what you're going to do about that. He said, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it. The next time he poops in the living room floor, I'm going to spank him on the hind end with a newspaper. And then I'm going to throw him out the kitchen window. Fair enough. Call me back in 3 weeks and tell me how that worked for you. He calls me back in 3 weeks and he says this. He said, Michael, you're never going to believe what that stupid little dog has done. Today he pooped in the living room floor and ran and jumped out the kitchen window. I said, now that's what you taught him to do, right? Now, when you have children and those children fall off their bicycle when you put them on, you don't look at them and say, can't you ride a bicycle, you little loser? You don't say that, do you? Of course not. What you say is this. When you fall off a bicycle, you get back on. Because that's what we do to grow, right? You actually affirm their worth and potential while you correct their behavior. You see them for not what their decision, but you see their future potential. So here's some things about dreaming that you need to know. Number one, never let your past hold your future hostage. It's not important to me what you've done in your past. Not important to me at all. John Maxwell said we over-exaggerate the past, we overestimate the future, we underestimate today. And I believe that. I want you to think about that. Never let your past hold your future hostage. 2, always make your future bigger than your past. Dan Sullivan said that. Now I want you to think about that. Always make your future bigger than your past. 3, to break with, to have new success, you must to break with old success and live out of your imagination instead of your memory. You got to have a dream. Now, I was fortunate enough to go with Coach Insel to LSU and Tennessee this year to write excerpts from the book. I was with him for 72 hours. Not one time in 72 hours did we talk about one other thing than how he was going to beat LSU at MTSU, in Baton Rouge. I want you to think about that. 72 hours. At breakfast, we talked about beating LSU. At lunch, we talked about beating LSU. At dinner, we talked about beating LSU. With players, we talked about beating LSU. On the bus, we talked about, on the plane, we talked about beating LSU. Every single conversation was about beating LSU. That's what I call a dominant aspiration, wouldn't you? Every single conversation. And guess what? He beat LSU. Now, I want you to think about that. He was selling the dream to everybody around him during every single conversation. We went to bed at 12:15. We woke up at 4 o'clock every morning. We slept 4 hours, and we got going every single day. That's a dominant aspiration. See, what I find out with most people across this country is they don't have focus. Instead of having one thing to focus on, they have 47 things to focus on. And because they have 47 things, they can't focus on the one thing. And Stephen Covey always says the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And so many people lose that concept. So this is the dream, having crucial conversation.
To learn more from Coach Micheal Burt about how to rewire people to win and to purchase your Anatomy of Winning DVD, click on the link below.